Good afternoon and welcome to another exciting edition of Standpoint. I am Veronica Danny Boy. The clashes between herders and farmers have taken different dimensions. Property worth millions destroyed in deadly attacks and reprisal attacks from both sides. Many Nigerians have condemned the manner in which the federal government has handled the issue. And just when Nigerians thought the Buhari administration could not afford to get entangled in more scandals, the recent reinstatement of the suspended NHIS boss, Usman Yusuf, has set tongues wagging, causing a lot of controversy in the polity. These will be our focus on the show today. Now, before we go further, let me introduce my guests. With me in the studio is a former commissioner of Ekiti State and a governorship aspirant, Debo Ronti Ajayi. Also in the studio is a lawyer and public affairs analyst, Gani Fani. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us on the show.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Now, let's start off with the herders-farmers clashes. Some Nigerians are saying it is not a clash. They are of the opinion that it's a blatant attack by herdsmen on farming communities. Statements from some government officials like the Minister of Defense, Dan Ali, and the Inspector General of Police, Ibrahim Idris, have not helped matters. The handling of the crisis has led to some sort of face-off between the Benue State Governor, Samuel Ortom, and the IGP. Ortom and members of the House of Representatives have called for the resignation of the IGP, accusing him of incompetence and bias. Before we go to that, Debo, I'll start with you now. There was another series of attacks some days back where 2 persons were killed in Logo local government area, the same place where people were killed early this year. And with the number of persons killed and this rising speed of attacks, like we said in my introduction, some have said that this is an outright attack and not just a clash, as it seems. Is that what it is?
We'll definitely agree with that view. The pattern of attacks that we have seen actually makes one wonder if these are really just mere herdsmen or people hiding behind with invisible hands trying to attack Nigeria, and in doing so actually highlight the security lapse that exists in the country. The whole mayhem suggests that we really need to buckle up. It shows glaringly that our security apparatus are not effective, they're not functional. And this also highlights the over-centralization of institutions in Nigeria, whereby states cannot protect their own territories, local government has no say on security, we have overlaps of institutions, we have vigilantes everywhere, we have neighborhood watches simply because we need a functioning government institutions. So the whole thing really boils down to me as a security lapse.
All right, now I bring you into this topic now, Gani, because some have said that this whole issue, like I rightly pointed out to Debo, would you say that we have really understood the motive behind these attacks for us to really know what solutions to proffer? Because as we begin to try to proffer a solution, we see attacks, another pocket of attack happening in one place or the other.
You see, there is a failure of institutions. There are quite a number of things we'll be sweeping under the carpet, particularly when Nigeria became centralized for a very long time ago. We have been managing, but these are the
when
same.
you say managing, what do you mean?
Managing in the sense that we have been hiding the real issues. And
what are the real issues?
The real issues is, for instance, you want to dispossess me of my property. You tell me that yes, you are just staying here. After all, have I done anything really wrong with you or with your property or what have you? So people who are clamoring that decentralization should take effect in the country, or we should go back to the basics, because we've been somewhere before. We had experience before, and things were not like this. But under successive military regimes, we have been patching, we have been papering, we have done so many things to the extent that virtually everything now dispossessed. Take, for instance, when you talk of government and you talk of lawmaking, you can't talk of lawmaking without talking of enforcement. I can assure you today, all the states that we are talking about, they are just administrative centers. There is no state. We have just seen an example now of a situation whereby a House of Assembly enacts a law, and the Minister of Defense comes out from a meeting with the President to say it is that law that is causing, that has triggered off attacks, which is not true, because that is very disingenuous to say that. But then it has shown you practically that quite a lot of things are wrong with the system that we are running. Besides that, we also have failure of leadership in a very serious sense. The leadership that is not proactive, the leadership, I look at Nigeria, when I look back now, just like yesterday, when we had independence, I was a small boy, and I see quite a number of things. Take, for instance, the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, I look at it. If the administration that thought of it in 1978, your generation might not have known that coming to Lagos, you have to pass through Ijebu-Ode. You come via Ikorodu to this Lagos. Imagine if this road had not been constructed. It would have taken donkey years from Ibadan to come to Lagos. But somebody saw in the future that there could be problems. Let us have an expressway. And we had one in 1978.
Now, let me take you back to the statement you made.
Yes.
Failure of government not being proactive.
Leadership, yes.
Or leadership. Now,
wasting resources.
When you say not being proactive, in what sense, with regards to this farmers' headers clash? Because at some point, the president asked for deployment of the IGP to the state. And so, I mean,
said at a forum, I said, look, you can know when the IGP, if it is in a serious system, do you need to tell the IG, you have a commissioner of police in place? Do you need, it's not just like window dressing. I said, look, if they ask the IG, is the IG a puppet? Somebody just say go somewhere. You should know what to do. Constitutionally, that's your responsibility. There's crisis in a place. You have a commissioner of police. In any case, I said, you won't know when the IG will go back to Abuja and not a single person will be arrested. Up to now, as we are talking, not a single suspect has ever been apprehended. So I'm saying that we know the truth. We are just deceiving and then hiding things. And besides that,
what is this truth?
Let me tell you this. For a nation that is sincere with itself, you should know that this desertification and all the rest that they say are the root causes of it. Look, in other sane societies, like we have seen, like India, like Brazil, they've shown us examples in other areas that if you want to be talking about it now, because these were countries that were at par with Nigeria in 1960 in virtually everything. They manufacture planes there right now. Go there and ask how they deal with these issues that we are talking about. We are just here at the elementary level. Even go to Ethiopia. We have not shown leadership with the resources that we have. Are you now telling me that you need anybody to be roaming all the way from Sokoto to Calabar? And these persons now, because in the process, because you can imagine, look at the issue of David in the Bible. David was able to face Goliath because this is a man that lived virtually in the bush. So these persons, you have put them through a process that they can kill anytime. They are not human beings in this sense, I'm sorry to say it, and that's the truth. If you have been taken away from Sokoto, so the government ought to have thought of it that, look, we don't need to roam around. Something that was being done in the ancient days, we don't have to be saying it must endure and continue to be.
Okay, so
ranches ought to have been in place before now. What are we be doing with all
all right, let me bring
the money we have been getting from where?
So, stemming from what Gani has said, Debo, doesn't mean we don't really understand the issues, or is it that, like some section of Nigerians are saying, we are just politicizing this whole matter?
Well, Nigeria happens to be at the central level where most of the control of the country resides. We are too complex and we're too conflicted. A lot of times it's not that we don't know what the issues are, it's not that we don't even know what the solutions are, but the cohesiveness, the robust agreement that we require to successfully and sustainably tackle these issues are often not there, and therefore creeps in insincerity of purpose among our leaders, window dressing, as you called it, and at the end of the day, we handle issues as if we don't have a clue. We actually do. So a lot of times I see that we are groping in a very broken system, and many of the issues that we trip over only exhibit the kind of loose federation that we have in Nigeria. If we could muster the courage to decentralize and allow some regional autonomy, and let us partition this problem so that there's a sense of ownership. A lot of times when, like my brother here said, you know, when you need to tell somebody to do what they are already constituted to do, then you start to wonder. It's because they don't have a sense of ownership. And there's a way our leadership in Nigeria should start to take have a sense of accountability.
Shouldn't the office give you a sense of ownership?
Well, this is part of it, and this is part of the structure that I'm referring to, because if I have a sense of ownership, or if I properly dissect that a problem reflects on my own incompetence, then I will buckle up, not waiting for somebody else to have to give me instruction before I act. You know, so and also, you see, part of the problem we have here, in fact, a lot of times, even the power is given, the empowerment is given, but corruption just does not allow any of these things to be effective. So we have a host of issues that explain why Nigeria keeps tripling. You know, somebody called us a country of perpetual potential. Potentials never realized. Very, very disheartening. You're a Nigerian living outside, you look at what is going on in the country, and you marvel, how can this be in a country of very smart people? And my explanation, since I came back to Nigeria, is that Nigeria reflects how smart people behave in a broken system. The leadership structure we have, the leadership model that we have, actually does not help Nigerians to exhibit the best side of them. And we keep having all these very embarrassing things happen. And then, in fact, we allow foreigners to infiltrate us and hide under some of our sectional sentiments to mete out havoc on Nigeria. And our leaders are just watching. You know, I mean, I'll give you an example. In Ekiti, where I come from, there was a time when speed bombs started coming up in almost all our villages. And I was a commissioner then, and I made an observation that those speed bombs indicate to me that government is absent. Government is absent. Every time I encounter those speed bombs. But do our government recognize that a societal breakdown is actually a scorecard on their performance? Because there's no standards, no structure to these speed bombs. In fact, those speed bombs even endanger the lives of the communities around the speed bomb area. You know, no warnings, nothing at all, and no engagement with these communities.
Okay.
You know, so generally, my point is, many of the issues we face in Nigeria indicate leadership problem, and that the government is absent.
If I just want to add, because
I was coming to you.
Okay,
So you might quickly add, then I ask my question.
yes, the issue of the speed breakers, there is a community very close, incidentally, just coincidentally, we are from the same place. We are also from Ekiti. There is a particular town, if you are coming from Akure, there are about 40 speed breakers in a community called Itaobolu. I used to wonder, and then again, because of my understanding of society, because man to man was a wolf initially, I just pounce on you, take whatever, before the arrival of the big brother, which you call government. When government fails, it is now the duty of everybody to save himself. Self-help. Just
All right, I'm coming to that. We can't outrightly say the government has failed, right? But then, talking about broken systems,
yes.
the governor Samuel Otom for Benue State talked about people defending themselves
Yes.
by any legal means. Is this a reflection of the broken system?
Of course, that's what we are saying. In law that I practice, there's something we call self-defense.
And is that justified?
I said there's something called self-defense. Somebody comes here and wants to kill me now, I can't just surrender. No, you are given the right to defend yourself. But then, nobody should be able to come here easily and then decide to round us up here. And you have taken steps. When I wanted to enter these premises, somebody stopped me at the gate, looked at my boot, looked at my face, whether I look like a criminal. If the man fails to do that, I'm just allowing anybody to come here from Oshodi. And they just say, what have you just said on that radio or television? Well, you know the one I saw you. I decided to slap you.
And also,
So these are the issues. That's why we have government in place. And that's why resources are put together in the hands of a few persons that say, go and do it. It is now when you misuse it. The issue of corruption, nepotism, all this we are talking about now come into place. Because you are not supposed to do it. Ordinarily, in your private capacity, you can't have such powers.
All right, we have a caller on the line, Osen from Abuja. Are you there? Go ahead with your contribution.
Hello, good day.
Good afternoon.
Okay, can I go ahead and make my contribution?
Go ahead.
Okay, Veronica, good day. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Good day to the gentlemen in the studio.
Good day to you.
There's a very nice discussions you guys are having there. I don't know. You know, the issue of the herdsmen is just something that is very, very serious.
Osen, can you turn down the volume of your TV set?
Issue, you know, because I think, number one, the government has failed. You know, because the paramount activity or responsibility of the government is
All right, Osen, in case you try to call back again, make sure you turn down the volume of your TV set. All right, so Gani, I need you to, finalize the point you were
What I
trying
was
to
just saying is that, look, you are entitled under the law to defend yourself. What the governor is saying ordinarily should not be out of place because they say he's the chief security officer of the state, isn't it? I've had the commissioner of police also answered governors who said to themselves, I'm the chief security officer, I'm the chief enforcement officer of the law. That's part of the problems we have in the society. You see, because of over-centralization, the police will look at the face of whoever that is the piper that pays dictates the tune in Abuja, whether what he was about to do would be against the interest of his principal. That's the reason why not a single person. Why I said, have you heard anybody, like I said, being picked up in Benue for doing all this? I said nobody's going to be arrested, and nobody so far, in spite of the IG being there. Take the chief of army staff there. So these are the things that are wrong, the system that we are running. And some people believe this system must continue. So a governor, properly speaking, on behalf of his people, will tell them after failing several times. He said they had called Abuja several times. He said they are written to the vice president. What do you expect him to say or do? People will now divert attention to him as if he's the man that is now provoking violence. When in actual fact, we have seen practically about 70-something persons buried at the same time. Yes, a pogrom had taken place, a genocide, so to speak. Now the man who is now talking on behalf of his people will now appear as if he's the aggressor, which ordinarily is not the case. So it is the duty of the government that has taken on himself the entire security apparatus to ensure that everybody is safe. There must be equity, there must be justice, there must be fairness, so that there will not be breakdown of law and order. So failure of governance will take place. Immediately that one is compromised, which is the reason. We have to be sincere. That's the reason why the governor was talking that way, which ordinarily should not be so.
All right. Now, stemming from that, but the president was in Nasarawa and he said that people should not, attack one another so as to avoid reprisals. So how do we avoid it, saying that the governor is saying defend yourself and the president is saying let's avoid reprisals.
Well, I mean, they're not inconsistent in the sense that the perspective of the president is to, as the father of the country, is to ensure peace. And therefore, he also must have steps taken to address the issue in a way that the confrontation leading to one killing the other would also be stemmed. But there is also the other hand. In fact, I mean, the situation of Governor Autumn is very lamentable because really it's an indication of how helpless the chief security officer of a whole state can get when he has no control over the security apparatus that is designed to maintain peace in his own territory. It's just natural human instinct to have to do something and say something. So I don't think they're inconsistent, just each person will have to look at things from their own perspective. And I certainly empathize with Governor Autumn, and I'm really hoping that we'll get to the root causes of this issue.
All right, quickly, we have a caller on the line, Olufemi calling from Ogun State. Go ahead with your contribution. All right, I guess Femi is off the line, but as soon as you can call back to make your contributions. Now, there are also talks about the people not trusting the police in the state, Gani, because they feel that somehow the police is taking sides with these people. How is this going to, isn't this going to complicate matters?
It is unfortunate the very moment the populace don't have confidence in the security system. Very, very unfortunate. I feel bad myself because, like I told you, you had the Minister of Defense came out of a meeting with the president and he was asked a question, and instead of empathizing with the people of Benue State, he started to say, what do you expect to happen if there's a anti-open grazing law is in place? I don't expect people to say that. And that is after the IG himself also said something in that direction. So people are aware and people are clamoring and people are complaining about the one-sidedness of the appointments of these security officials. So you are virtually justifying it, that okay, these are our aggressors and these persons, they share the same blood, they come from the same place, which should not be so at all when you are doing justice. So, but then you have shown it, so the people have no confidence. And like I said, it is showing at least the imperfection in the system that we have put in place as against what was in place. As a small boy, I used to see some policemen in those days, they were called LA police, local authority police. They wore knickers. Yes, shortly after independence. And there was the one with trousers, they called them Lagos police, Olokpaiko. So we didn't know what was going on then. Until now, I said, yes. Is it possible for any government to make any law that the federal government is not disposed to, and it will be timelessly going to be enforced? Of course not. The government will be foot dragging. Let us go and study it, which is not in consonance with the system that we have. Once the House of Assembly makes a law, and it's assented to by the government, it has become law for the police to enforce. Until when that law, for whatever reason, is repealed, you don't have a time for you to go and be doing some post-mortem, whether the way the law was made was wrong or what have you. You can go to court to go and challenge it. But then you as a security agent, you don't need to go and look into Abuja and say, excuse me, sir, which of these laws should I obey? Which is the situation now.
Okay.
And those are the things we need to stem quickly.
Quickly, we have Williams calling from Kaduna. Are you there? Go ahead with your contribution. Williams?
Hello?
Yes, Williams, go ahead with your contribution. All right, I guess, Williams, you have to call back as soon as you can. Well, some have said that there's a possibility that the police are overwhelmed by the situation in that state because of the attacks that are still coming up, and then hence the deployment of military officials for Operation Cat Race, which we see around 6 states: Kogi, Benue, Kaduna, and Niger, and Taraba, as well as Nasarawa. Could that be the situation, and is that actually going to quell these attacks that we have been seeing?
Actually, what baffles me in Nigeria is that we don't seem to learn from occurrences of undesirable events. It's actually surprising to me that it is now that police would actually recognize the manpower capacity to deal with issues of these proportions. Meanwhile, the same thing manifests at different times and at different places. It's a real issue. And I mentioned earlier on about security lapse. Part of it is the manpower to enforce the law, to enforce compliance. And then, of course, the quality of manpower is another issue, which my brother touched on as trust issues. So, yes, definitely it will solve the problem, but we have an immediate issue. So deploying the military manpower to supplement that of the police becomes imperative to do. But my issue is that it's going to happen again and again. Okay, today is Herdsmen, tomorrow is going to be something else. We don't seem to have proper planning in even our demographics, population projections, requirements, and all of that. I don't know how much of that comes into our planning. And then also the fact that if we don't do it, okay, we'll continue to be humiliated in Nigeria and embarrassed our government. And then also this touches on the issue of corruption. You know, even when you provide the machinery for our institutions to function, the leadership of those institutions many times end up compromising through corruption their capacity to deal with issues. Many times I empathize with policemen even on the street when I see them, because on investigation you find out that provisions were made in the annual budget to cater to their needs, but never really come down to the level of the average policeman on the street. And many times they hazard their own lives trying to do the much they can do with little resources. So in a lot of times, I hate to focus only on specific issues, but actually emphasize on the learning points from those issues, because this is where, you know, it's not a problem if you fall or fail. What is really the problem is if you fail to learn enough to prevent you from the humiliation of failing again and again. So we really have to, in fact, honestly, this comes back to us as Nigerians as well, because our process of electing leaders is extremely faulty. We actually are to blame for the kind of leaders we get at the end of the day, because we are not vigilant, and even those who are informed about issues don't participate in the process of forming leadership. So we have a leadership problem, and this is part of what is coming back to us, you know, in form of being punished for having leaders that are in
front of the police. Is that the way it should be done? You now have a policeman to yourself. So we have not even used the resources available judiciously. So the truth of the matter, why most of us were happy when some pronouncements are made, which we have now known to be probably, we are just saying it without action. We have been told at the time there is nothing, anybody being attacked to any VIP. What do you see today? And you now see policemen, go and see them, they will be lobbying. They know what it means. They will be lobbying to be attacked to somebody. Carrying bags at the airports and all that. So the police that we have, the manpower, we have not utilized them properly to start with. And inside that, the level of an NHIS has said it. So these are some of the issues that
How about the cattle colonies and the branches, anti-grazing bills and all of that? Is that going to bring a solution to all of this?
It is not going to. It is a fundamental. You heard everybody saying it. I can't allow cattle colony in my state if you give me the opportunity. It is being highly politicized, let me tell you. We used to interact with ourselves before now. But right now, I can't even know the chief executive that will do it easily in several parts of the southern part of this country because of the political reasons. And this is one of the failures of leadership, like I said. If anybody, it shouldn't be a difficult thing to irrigate, if only to get pastures, several parts of the country, particularly in the northern part. If you are now coming with somebody that is carrying spear, AK-47, sacking people in towns and villages, you know what it means? Which cattle colony? Nobody is going to accept it easily. And you see people resisting. Governments all over, clergymen, opinion leaders, go and take a sample all over the place. So it is not going to solve the problem.
All right, let's quickly take a break now and the discussion will continue. Stay with us. In case you're just joining us, you're watching Standpoint, and we've been looking at the farmers' headers clash. Quickly, before we move on to the next topic, Debo, at a recently concluded security summit, the vice president says that realistically, policing the country the size of Nigeria centrally from Abuja, it's not the way to go. But so the question is, why are we not looking at quickly amending the constitution, since we clearly know that policing Nigeria from the center is not the way to go?
I certainly cannot authoritatively answer the question of why we're not doing it, because it's long overdue that we empower or allow the legal framework or constitutional framework for the state to be able to take charge of their own security to the extent that it does not threaten the security of the nation. So I'm very much aligned with the Vice President that state policing is critical. And when you have a chief security officer of a state that is closer to the people, the accountability level is closer to the people than the federal government.
All right.
You must align that responsibility with power. You must be able to discharge that responsibility with proper legal framework. But in Nigeria, we have a lopsided situation where the power resides at the federal, but responsibilities reside at the state or local government level. That's a misalignment, you know. Power and responsibility should go together. So I really don't know what has been holding us back, but it's something that really we need as of even decades ago. Let's bring back local security apparatus.
Quickly, because we're running short of time. Gani, you want to quickly comment?
You know that there's no state police formation in this country that can function without the state input in terms of finance.
That's
Today,
right. That's right.
Lagos is an example.
Okay. Ekiti another.
It's all over.
Yes.
All the states are the ones funding an organization they don't have control over.
Yes.
Which is very wrong. Now, coming to the statement by the vice president, you want to ask anybody, if a vice president, you know what it means. That is a man in the front seat, sitting with the driver of the vehicle of this country in a literary sense. Do we have to wait for anything? Is it men that would say they should go ahead? So these are the issues. The vice president, I have said it. He was my teacher and my friend.
All right, quickly.
Very well. And I've said it that, look, if we miss opportunities like him, he has a special gift, those of us who are close to him. But that gift is being frittered in a way.
All right.
When he was Attorney General of this state, this Lagos.
We need to wrap up on this
Quickly,
topic.
let me tell you, he challenged most of all these central issues. He knew himself that these things will not work, but there are some forces that are still delaying it. And the earlier we do it, the better. That's why people talk of restructuring. They know what is going on.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's move
Devolution
on
of
now.
power.
Moving on now, for a government that prides itself on fighting corruption, many say the Buhari administration has been involved in one corruption-related scandal too many. The latest is the reinstatement of the Executive Secretary of the National Health Insurance Scheme, Usman Yusuf, who was suspended by Health Minister Isaac Adewale. Adewale suspended Yusuf in July 2017 over allegations of gross misconduct. A panel commissioned by the minister to investigate Yusuf found him culpable of infractions that range from nepotism to theft of public funds. Reports indicate that the president did not consult the health minister nor the investigation panel that indicted Yusuf before reinstating him. This looks like a sequel to the Mena scandal that rocked the presidency last year. What does this say about this government? Now, the question, what does this say about this government, has been ringing. What really is happening? Because the minister had actually submitted the report to the presidency sometime in November. And one wonders what happened to the report and what is going on. Debo.
Well, actually, obviously, I'm not an insider to what is actually going on. So I'll just only comment as a Nigerian citizen trying to make sense or trying to understand what is going on. I'm baffled because the normal administrative process of dealing with this kind of situation is such that when somebody has been found culpable by a constituted authority that has supervisory role over such a person, and as a result has made the decision to ask that person to step aside, for such a person to be reinstated by a higher authority will suggest that the higher authority has superior information or had conducted its own investigations.
But we're not told why he was reinstated.
This is where I'm going, that the real missing link here is for us to be, to understand why or what the government has to have reinstated him, contrary to an earlier decision made by a constituted authority. And I'm sorry, a lot of issues in Nigeria that I've seen in recent times has to do with information management. A lot of times it's as if the government does not realize that the people has the right to be informed. The people, you know, they're rational, they want to understand, because there lies in trust and credibility to be given by the citizens. So what I see here is that there's a missing link. I don't have all the information, so I just have to assume that some investigation had been conducted, but even then, before you reinstate such a person, then there should be an appeal to a pending investigation that is going on as well, so that you can interact with the investigation panel.
We have a caller on the line, Patrick from Abia State. Go ahead, Patrick, with a contribution.
Yeah, good afternoon, Sister Veronica and Ganya and the rest.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
The issue of NHIS we are talking about. You see, let's look at the issue. Yeah, the issue of NHIS, the chief executive, as we are saying, you see, let's look at this in this way. Nigerians, when we say somebody did maybe fraud or anything, I would like such things to be appear on television here. That let us show us, let people show the documents, so that we, the viewers, will be rest assured that what we are seeing and what people are saying, that sometimes people, maybe they don't like their face in our organization. People can go with stories and stories. Like what you were thinking about, the first one about the Herdsmen, before you enter this topic. Well, I have to thank the Catholic Bishops Conference Association. They have tried, at least they have said the heart of the laity in church, in the Christendom. And you see, anything that has to do with problems in any factory, it affects production in any country. And anything that affects the production, it affects the commoners. Because if the commoners don't see food and eat, that's what leads to increasing the poverty level in the country. And you ask yourself, who train all these people who go on shooting with the soldiers. Soldiers will train, and this would have been exchanging blades. Why?
All right, Patrick, thank you for your contribution. Quickly, Gani.
You know what is said that this common cliche, justice must not just be done. It must be seen to be done. You see, you must not confuse people about a particular issue. Why people are a bit aggrieved or on the edge is simply because of the trust on Buhari's government. I can tell you if it's any mediocre government that we know or this one, anything goes. A number of persons that ordinarily would not get interested in governance issues, political issues, got involved because we believe that this country has to be we have to wrestle it from persons that are benefiting from the misgovernance with virtually everything that was negative before now. Now, if a minister is put in...
We have Awusu on the line from London. Go ahead.
Hello?
Hello, go ahead with your contribution.
Hello?
Hello, go ahead.
I want to criticize Buhari government for money they have collected from the people who stole Nigerian money.
Awusu, are you there?
Yes.
All right.
Why he doesn't pay the teachers' money? He doesn't pay the arrears. He doesn't pay the allowances.
All right, Awusu, that is actually not what the topics we're looking at today, but then I'm sure the right persons would be listening to your contribution to know what to do. All right, I come back to you again.
We are talking, these things are elementary. You must not confuse people with what you are doing. A minister we are talking about, suspended, not just suspended, he's suspended and set up a committee of reputable, inclusive of the FCC, the ICPC, and quite a number of organizations and persons. And then that person suddenly, without any clear-cut outcome of the investigation, clear-cut that virtually everybody must see. Just like I said, justice must not just be done, it must be seen to have been done. Then suddenly a chief of staff in the presidency now wrote and said the man should go back, go and make amends with your minister. It happened before. We had when the issue of the Minister of State for Petroleum, it was the same statement that was made.
Now that begs the question of, do ministers really have the power?
That's what we are saying.
Discipline.
We are trivializing issues. These are ministers that ordinarily when they talk, they should be taken very seriously. Let us now look at ourselves. He had been a commissioner before. Can you imagine him taking decisions in the office where he served before? And then for the governor to overturn it and probably ridicule him. And then people will still say he's in control. The minister will not be comfortable as we are talking. And it is going to affect too many things. So,
like, if you could just tell us what this could affect.
Of course, the morale of the workers. The workers instantly.
Yeah, there was a protest.
Immediately.
Yes.
The people knew what was going on. I was amazed myself that there's a procurement act of 2007, that somebody will just go ahead and then award a contract of over 1 billion without due process. Somebody will buy a car. I'm amazed at what is happening in this country. About 50 million SUV, that's why people steal. How can that person leave after office? If that is the way you are doing, 58 million, or what have you, a car. And then you must steal money to sustain that life afterwards.
All right,
these are the issues that we must clear. Okay. So it's a stain on the banner of the anti-corruption fight. And I don't know the kind of explanation that will be made. And the man has said it, look, you are not the one who appointed me. It is the president that appointed me, so don't talk to me.
Now, some have said that this actually shows that our civil service structure is quite faulty. What do you make of that?
Well, it's not just the civil service structure that is faulty. Our whole governance structure is faulty. When you have a doctrine of collective responsibility, it must allow every component of the institution to take responsibility for their domain. And like my brother said here, the whole confidence in the structure collapsed when when somebody in exercise of responsibility seems to be undermined. But like I said, I really have to allow some benefit of doubt to try to rationalize what is going on here. But certainly we have problems. We've seen it happen again in other situations. We have problems with our structure, and it's actually not the absence of structure, it's the operations of the structure that gives us a problem in Nigeria. And not only at federal level, the same thing happens at state level, it happens throughout our system. Like you said earlier, we have a broken system. And when the body is sick, healing has to start from the head. And we are going to have to look to our the legislature and the executives at a higher up level to actually take leadership. And like my brother said, the current administration has been given a lot of goodwill. We just have to pray that God gives them the wisdom to sustain that goodwill and deal with these pressing issues.
All right, Gani, the federal government, through the Minister of Information, said that he being reinstated is not going to stop any investigation against him. And then people ask the question, can he be a judge in his own case? You're a lawyer.
It's an afterthought. I must tell you. Somebody is accused within an office, and then you allow him to go back there. Do you think the workers that instantly went into a kind of resistance, they know what they are talking about? We are not talking to pupils in school that don't have the capacity to think. So the minister, what he said, is probably playing his role as a spokesman of the government, because all this thing that we are saying, we are not happy with it. So how will you take somebody to a place and then you now want to probe him, and then you will get effective. So that is why in the civil service rules, I asked somebody before I came here who is versed in civil service rules, and he told me that they have what they call civil service rules of 2000, and they quoted to me sections of it for interdiction, suspension, payment of half salary, and all the rest, to allow investigation and possibly prosecution. These are procedures that should be in place. These are the things that we have now abridged. And then the signal we are sending to people is very negative. So the man cannot sit in that office, and at the same time you are now saying the investigative authorities will also be able. You want a staff to go off that place to go and testify against him easily.
Could this be why some section of Nigerians are saying that by doing this, we are breeding impunity?
Of course. Like I told you, if it is a government that is known, ab initio, that this is a government that man no man, pat your back for whatever you are doing, we have invested so much, we are expecting so much from this government. We don't want a situation whereby even mere associating with somebody that is suspected, we feel it should be a crime. Mere being seen in the category or in the company of people, not just talk with somebody that this person, a minister, properly so speaking. Adewale was former vice chancellor of the University of Ibadan, the first university in this country. He was CMD of a UCH in Ibadan. Would you want to tell me that he doesn't know what he's doing? For such a man now elevated as a minister, what else are we looking for? A professor. He will now say do this, and then you now undermine him.
And he followed due process?
Yes, why doing it? And then the man now says, look, I don't report to you. And the man keeps saying, you are a parastatal under me. And they say, no. Are you the one that appointed me? So somebody must be sensitive to some of these things and how it will be misinterpreted. The way it is now is a messy issue, I can tell you. Very, very messy. And it's a stain on the banner of this administration.
So how do we resolve this issue, seeing that, according to Gani, this is a stain on this administration, plus the fact that this administration talked about fighting corruption?
Well, I'm sure it's going to be resolved. And already, as you mentioned, the minister has already started to try to reimpose confidence in the process, saying that the investigative work will continue.
And you think Nigerians are going to be confident
Well,
with such statements?
I'm sure at the end of the day, normalcy is going to return to NHIS. But as I kept saying, it's always a learning point that I don't want to miss. And I think the points have already been made. So I believe that the federal government is not going to ignore all the sentiments and views being expressed that requires resolution of the situation. But it's going to be resolved, and certainly it's not going to be by force. I think the workers of NHIS are trying to make a powerful statement as well that the federal government is not going to ignore. Because they are insiders, by the way, so they cannot be ignored. So I'm sure the federal government is going to do the right thing, but certainly they have to be the one to do the right thing, regardless of what our individual views are, because we don't have the authority to send the executive secretary back out of office again. So it's still the federal government that is going to have to take action. But generally, the situation is messy, like my brother said. It raises a lot of questions, but we cannot reach conclusions until we know exactly what is going on inside there. In other words, there's also a potential that the executive secretary was removed maliciously, and that information we're not privy to. And it's easy to assume that, like you said, the minister followed due process and all of that, but the federal government is in possession of superior information, and we just have to give them the benefit of the doubt and allow them time to rectify the situation. But the key element to me is the need for the federal government to actually radiate.
No, I know you have been itching to say something.
He's not saying this, but you know, he's a governorship aspirant in my state. You know, governors, they know the way they go about it. A few of us...
by the way, I'm an actuary, okay?
Okay.
As an actuary, we are trained
quickly,
not
we are running
to
out of time.
In any case...
impressions for facts.
Yes.
You know, you have to, you know, so the facts are not at my disposal, so I cannot conclude a case.
Okay,
know.
go ahead, Gani, quickly.
It's as good as say, okay, whatever they say, we just take it. We don't even need to come
really,
here.
not really.
Nobody needs to talk on the pages of newspapers.
Really.
Okay.
But the truth of it, we have said it. The right thing must be done. Anybody that is found to have violated the rules and regulations, they must not hide under any whatever. Any guys to tell me that because the defense I had was that you are not the one that appointed me. You are not the one. It should be the duty of a man on the street to see a thief and say you are a thief.
All right.
The situation which we have got to in this country. We talk of corruption, causing problems and all that. And for a minister now to take an action and for you to tell me that are you the one that appointed me? Is that an answer to the question? Of course it is not.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for sharing your views with us on Standpoint.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that's how we wrap up the show today. Thanks so much for watching. I am Veronica Dan Ikpoi. Enjoy your weekend.